Hello my friends, in today's video we will take a look at DJI Osmo Pocket 3. DJI has released Pocket 3 3 years after the Pocket 2 with some very significant changes. DJI went the sensor enlargement route, which makes a lot of sense. Pocket 3 uses a 1-inch sensor and it fixes a lot of issues of previous generations. In this video, we will take a look at the output and the feature set of DJI's latest handheld gimbal camera. Before we start, I have purchased this Osmo Pocket 3 with my own money, so this is an independent review. Much like Pocket 1 and 2, Osmo Pocket 3 still consists of a sensor with a lens mounted on a tiny gimbal, which is mounted to a handle. So is it still Pocket? Well, it is significantly more bulky than the Pocket 1 and 2. It is about 14 cm tall and it weighs 179 grams. It is still very compact for what it can do, but this is more of an Osmo Check-It Pocket, which is fine. I will try not to compare it to Pocket 2 in this video, because there will be a separate video about that, but this is a more high-end device rather than a direct upgrade. The space on the Pocket 3 is still used very well, including that genius display solution. The build quality is completely fine. The gimbal assembly is fully metal, the rest of the device is mostly plastics, but the quality of the plastics is very solid, so I have no complaints in that regard. A very important aspect of the Pocket 3 is the focal length, which is 20mm full frame equivalent carried over from the Pocket 2. I still think that it is the best compromise. It is wide enough to be immersive and provides sufficient field of view for video blog type of content. At the same time, it doesn't have that typical flat action camera look. It is also the middle way between the focal length of the main smartphone cameras, which are about 26 to 30mm equivalent after stabilization, and action cameras, which are between 11 and 16mm. A very valid option is to use a wide-angle lens with the Pocket 3, which will provide 15mm full frame equivalent focal length. So how about the image quality? This time DJI went the opposite way in terms of resolution. I wasn't able to find a definitive answer, but it seems that Pocket 3 uses an A7S III style low-resolution 9.4 megapixel sensor. As always, this approach has both pros and cons. DJI was able to get the video quality right. 4K video captures plenty of detail. Importantly, sharpness adjustment from Osmo Action 2 was carried over. That makes a huge difference and it allows you to get very naturally looking footage. This footage is once again a class above action cameras, but I will talk about that in a separate video. The approach to processing and colors is similar to Pocket 2 or Action 4. It is not using local tone mapping, but it captures a very well judged amount of dynamic range. DJI was able to find a good balance between revealing details in shadows and not making them overexposed, which is extremely important. The colors are relatively saturated but reasonably accurate for a consumer device. I'm happy with the colors, and so will be the majority of users. D-Lock M color setting is also available. It is relatively flat and it offers solid flexibility for color grading. I would say that it is a lot closer to cine-like profile than to real lock, but that is probably a good decision. The main advantage of that low resolution is that the Pocket 3 is probably using 1:1 readout, which allows it to shoot 4K 60p and sort of 4K 120p. Unlike with the Pocket 2, the image quality is not affected by the frame rate. A disadvantage is that the live cropping zoom capability is gone. Pocket 3 only has simple digital zoom, which decreases image quality right away, and it is just an emergency option, unlike with the Pocket 2. One of the main strengths of that 1-inch sensor should be the low light, and it is. The low light performance is the best that you can get with a consumer device in this broad category. It has a special low light mode which improves the processing. Importantly, the low light exposure is very well judged. It is not trying to turn night into a day and introduce unnecessary noise in the process. Another very important aspect of the Pocket 3 is the gimbal. The gimbal is still the most versatile method of stabilization. It offers 4 stabilization modes. Those are the tilt lock mode, follow mode, all follow mode, and POV mode. A big advantage of the gimbal is that it can keep the horizon leveled. The response of the gimbal is very predictable, which makes it great for just pointing the camera around. It can also be used for special modes such as panorama photography, object tracking, moving time-lapses, and so on. Another advantage of the gimbal is that it can be remotely controlled, so you can basically compose the shot using the smartphone app. A new feature is the vertical mode. It is activated when you turn the pocket on with the screen in vertical position. There is no gimbal rotation, it just uses different part of the sensor in the vertical mode. It offers 3K resolution, which is more than enough for vertical platforms such as Instagram. A weakness of any 3-axis gimbal is the walking, since it can't stabilize up and down movement. I don't know whether it is the extra weight or my walking smoothness has improved, but I can see a lot less FPS walking effect with the Pocket 3 in comparison to Pocket 2. The walking actually looks really good, despite that I wasn't trying as much as I do with big gimbals, because this is a consumer device after all. The gimbal stabilization is also not affected by the low light, which is often an issue with digital stabilization. The tracking smoothness has been vastly improved. It works well even with objects that are relatively far away from the camera. Faster movements are not an issue either. This is a unique capability of the Osmo Pocket 3 in this class and a big strength or even a reason to get one. A downside of the gimbal is that it is a sensitive device that is not meant to take any punishment. Osmo Pocket 3 can also shoot stills. It shoots 16:9 2840x2160 or square 3K stills in RAW or JPEG mode. The image quality is pretty solid. They capture a nice amount of detail, but there are consumer devices that can shoot more detailed stills due to higher resolution, and that includes the latest iPhones. The RAWs capture a good amount of dynamic range, and they give you reasonable flexibility for post-production. Overall, it is a solid stills camera, but it is not the main highlight of the Pocket 3. Osmo Pocket 3 uses face detection autofocus system. It works very well in pretty much all conditions. At its focal length, it also has pretty easy job. The lens exhibits a noticeable amount of focus breathing though, so it will zoom in and out if you are focusing from close distance to infinity. The minimum focus distance is 20 cm, which means that it is quite suitable for close-up work. The handling and the user experience is one of the highlights of the Osmo Pocket 3. You can tell that a lot of thought and time went into it. First of all, the display is outstanding. It is a 2-inch OLED display with 700 nit brightness. The resolution is 320 ppi, which is excellent. It is good enough for composing, judging exposure, and even for checking focus. 700 nits is enough for outdoors use, so OLED technology doesn't really have any disadvantages in this case. As you have definitely noticed, it is a rotating screen, and this time in a good way. First of all, it is probably the best way to fit a reasonably large screen onto an Osmo Pocket. If you want to shoot horizontally, you need to rotate it horizontally. Vertical orientation is for vertical recording. What I really appreciate is that the Pocket 3 will turn on when you rotate the screen and turn off when you put it back. The other way to turn the camera on and off is a long press of the recording button. An upside of that larger size of the Pocket 3 is that it is a lot easier and more secure to hold. DJI also includes grip extension even in the base package, and that helps a lot as well. The joystick is now a part of the device. It can be used either for gimbal movements or for zooming. It only has on-off positions, so there is no speed modulation, but the speed is adjustable. The panning with the joystick is pretty smooth, I am happy with that, but the slowest speed setting could have been a little bit slower. Holding the joystick down activates the gimbal lock, double pressing it recenters the gimbal position, and triple press rotates the camera. The user interface is basically carried over from Osmo Action 4, which is certainly a good choice. It uses the usual swipe gestures and well-organized main menu. Everything is relatively easy to find. All of the items are sufficiently large, so it is fairly easy to operate even in difficult conditions. DJI Mimo App is mostly unchanged, and that is completely fine because it is still one of the best. It offers full screen preview and simple controls. Everything that can be changed on the device can also be set in the app. Importantly, it is also a remote control for the gimbal, which is a very useful feature of the Osmo Pocket 3. Physical expansion port has been removed, but that is completely fine. The joystick is now on the device itself and the display is much better, so you won't have to use the smartphone as a monitor very often, and when you do, you can connect it wirelessly. The lag is exceptionally low, so this is actually better than using a physical connector. Pocket 3 uses a relatively large 1300 mAh battery. DJI claims 166 minutes of 1080p video. I was able to get 145 minutes of 4K 25p, which is an excellent result. Pocket 3 also supports speedy fast charging. It can be charged to 80% in 16 minutes. 950 mAh battery handle is also available, and that will get you well over 200 minutes. The case is a compromise between a couple of contradicting requirements. It is quite minimalistic, which is probably a good choice since the Pocket 3 is a little bit larger. The device is held in place using friction only, but it is very secure, so there is no need to be worried about that. There is also a space for storing the wide-angle lens and one filter or another lens. A downside is that one whole side is exposed, but I'm okay with that. Also, you need to make sure that the gimbal is properly locked when you are putting it in the case. Otherwise, you may end up with the lens being exposed, although there is a low probability that it will happen. The accessories have always been a big part of the Osmo Pocket experience. I will make a separate video about those, but one thing that I will mention here is the latch system for the grip extensions, which makes the connection even more secure in any situation. The audio quality is excellent. Pocket 3 uses 3 microphones, which is one less than Pocket 2, but it is still a major strength. There is also a lot of options for external audio recording, including this DJI microphone, which comes in the Creator Combo, but I will also talk about that in another video. To sum up, DJI Osmo Pocket 3 was worth the wait. It fixes most of the limitations of the Pocket 1 and 2 whilst employing a larger sensor and providing the best output in the series. 1-inch sensor is a real deal. The output looks classy and it is once again a step closer to DSLM image quality. The amount of detail is excellent despite the low resolution sensor, and the amount of dynamic range that it can capture is great. The low light performance is one of the main highlights of the Pocket 2. The user experience improvements are at least as significant as the output improvements. Most importantly, the display solution is fantastically clever. Integrated joystick, wireless capabilities, and intuitive controls make a big difference as well. There are 2 questionable points though. The first one is the use of that low resolution sensor, which means that number 3 loses the lossless zoom option and the stills resolution is what it is. You will get 4K 120p slow motion as a compensation. Is it a good trade-off? Well, that is up to you. The second questionable point is the size increase. I am very glad that DJI has made a 1-inch Pocket, but I thought that it will be called Pocket Pro, but that doesn't really matter at all. It is still a great package with excellent size to performance ratio, but the fact is that it is not as pocketable as the 1 and 2. Despite that, I am very happy with the Osmo Pocket 3 as it is a very capable device and I can highly recommend getting one. So that's it for this video, thank you for watching, I hope that you liked this video and that you have found it to be useful. Stay tuned for more videos and maybe consider subscribing if you don't want to miss my future content. I appreciate your feedback in form of thumbs up or thumbs down. If you would like to ask anything or share opinion, please do so in the comment section, and see you next time.